About 3 weeks ago, I went onto all of my socials and did a post where I asked what questions you have about the carnivore diet, really about metabolic health, anything at all. Anything that could come to mind. So this is part 1 of 2 viewer questions answered. Let's dive right into these. The first question is from Adrian. It says, I'm looking into low-fat carnivore. How do I do it? So I think this is related to my lipotoxicity videos that I've been releasing over the past couple of months. And you're never going to be doing a low-fat version of carnivore. It'll always be at least moderate fat, and that's okay. So there's a few ways that you can do this. I would say first, stop adding extra fat to everything. Don't eat sticks of butter, don't add heavy cream to your coffee, all of that kind of stuff. Instead, just stick to the fat that's on the meat that you're eating, and that should pretty much do the trick. If you'd like to take it a little bit further, you could try replacing 1 meal per day with a leaner cut of meat, and that will lower the fat intake even further. So the idea with this is if you have a lot of extra weight on your body, you have fat stores to tap into. You just need to allow your body to do so. If you're trying to do a little bit lower fat, I would say make sure you're eating more protein though. You're gonna need to replace what you're eating. You don't wanna just be like, no calories. You want to make sure that you're staying fed as well. But that can be a highly effective strategy for people that have a lot of weight to lose. The next question, I've been carnivore for about 4 months now, gained 20 pounds. I was already 50 pounds overweight. Oh wow. Okay. The labs don't meet the lipotoxicity values except for the morning fasting glucose, which is creeping up above 100. It was between 70 and 80 before he started the diet. So what do? What do they do next? Drop the fat, decrease the protein, also started monitoring ketones, and they're super low even after 16 to 18 hours fasted. The highest I've seen is 1.9 after fasting until noon and adding a bit of butter to my morning coffee. Okay, so a few things. Yeah, trying a lower fat version of carnivore can be highly effective. If you're consuming dairy, cut it. That's going to be the very first thing I would recommend. Don't add extra fat to stuff and eat leaner cuts of meat, and that weight should start coming off. If you don't meet the criteria for lipotoxicity because it's just the glucose that's kind of out of whack, that's okay. You can still do a lower fat version of carnivore and see results, especially if you've gained 20 pounds and you're already 50 pounds overweight. So that would be where I would start. Just lower the fat a little bit, don't add extra fat to anything, and eat leaner cuts of meat. I definitely cut the dairy. This question is about T3. Low T3 on carnivore, however, I simply can't eat carbs. Thoughts on how to raise T3 without carbohydrates? This is a very interesting question that I don't know the answer to quite yet, but it's something that I'm working on. I had never measured my T3 before carnivore, and my thyroid issues kind of started on month 4 of carnivore, but I do not think that carnivore was the root cause of it. I think a leaky gut was the root of the autoimmune issue because I have Hashimoto's. There's some people out there that think that lower T3 levels are just par for course on carnivore, that's normal. And nutritionally, I haven't really had any success adding carbs to help my thyroid condition. Quite to the contrary, I've gained a lot. Well, I've lost it now because I stopped experimenting with adding carbs in, but for the first half of this year, I was trying and it was not helpful whatsoever. I'm raising my T3 levels with medication. I use liothyronine and we've gotten my dose perfect, so now my levels are great. But I think that with a thyroid condition, addressing leaky gut first is the best thing you can do so that you can start healing your body, because we want to get down to that root cause. So that's kind of what I would say. Don't worry so much about carbohydrates. It hasn't really done anything for me. I would start working on leaky gut stuff and maybe some kind of detoxification of liver and gallbladder and things like that. Try to get everything working correctly and the way it should, and then you can start dialing in all of the thyroid stuff. I have a ton of content coming out about this in the next couple of months. I've been working on a Hashimoto's protocol, and I will say that as I'm speaking to you right now, my energy levels are probably at like 60 to 70%, and they were at like 20%. And fatigue was my #1 symptom. So I will definitely be sharing with you exactly what I'm doing to feel better. No gatekeeping, no nothing like that. I will list it all out for you. you exactly what I'm doing, but I want to make sure that it's in remission first, that I'm feeling like 100% better before I, let you know what I'm doing, because I might change and tweak a few things. But that is coming very soon, so be sure to hit that subscribe button if you are not subscribed yet so you don't miss any of that content. The next question is about CAC scores. Did carnivore make your calcium score go up? Typically, no. What can cause calcified plaque in your heart arteries is related to inflammation, high blood sugar, if you're in a toxic environment, if you smoke, if you drink, if you're eating a lot of ultra-processed foods and have insulin resistance and things like that. Typically on carnivore, you're going to start to see improvements in all of those numbers. Not necessarily like your CAC score is going to go down. There are cases of regression, but it's just not that common, and there's not really a lot of data on what's actually causing that. But for me personally, I've only had one CAC, and that's when I was 39. Yeah, 39, I'm 41 now, and it was a 0. To be expected. So I'm going to measure that again probably 5 years from then. So 3 years from now, and we'll see what happens. But no, typically that does not, carnivore alone is not causing calcified plaquing in your arteries. It's actually helping cardiovascular health because it lowers your glucose levels, it lowers your weight, and it can resolve insulin resistance, which is one of the #1 causes of heart disease. Okay, the next question is about blood work. They had everything was good except for their liver enzymes were high. Doctor was saying that they have fatty liver and they're kind of confused as to what that is. So I have a few questions. What were the liver enzymes before you started carnivore? Have you retested that number? Because that could just be an anomaly. What did they test exactly? Were they doing like GGT, AST, ALT? Like what were those numbers? And also what was the range? Like what was your actual number? Because in conventional medicine, those reference ranges are going to be a little bit different than functional medicine numbers, which are aiming for optimal metabolic health. So those would be all of my questions that I would need to know if I'm going to answer that question. I honestly wouldn't be super concerned as long as all of your other numbers are good. If you want to get a DEXA scan to measure your visceral fat levels, that can give you a good clue on like if you perhaps have fatty liver in addition to blood work. There's other scans and tests you can do, but DEXAs are really easy and available in a lot of places, so I'd probably start there. The next question, I've been doing carnivore for 9 months and I still haven't lost any weight. Now, I believe that I've talked to this person before, Denaro.Frank, and I would say, I think when we talked previously, we talked about you lowering the fat intake and raising the protein and seeing if that was effective. So I'm wondering if you have done that yet. The previous tips that we've talked about in this video, don't add extra fat to stuff, eat leaner cuts of meat, and only eat the fat that is on the actual meat that you're consuming, and also to cut dairy. Have you done all of those things yet? Let me know in the comments and then we can address it some more. Next question, thoughts on avocado and some fruits, melons and berries. So I personally am not one of those carnivore educators that is like, carnivore is the only healthy way to eat for every single person on the planet. I think a lot of people, in fact, most people on carnivore, if they're doing carnivore for some kind of like elimination diet or just to lose some weight or heal from some kind of condition, I think eventually they can begin to reincorporate some plant material. And of all of the things you mentioned, avocado, melons, berries, all of those things are awesome. I'll have an avocado here and there. I love avocados. I personally think if you're going to be incorporating plant material to kind of stay away from anything with like lectins, nightshades, oxalates, high oxalate fruits and vegetables. But I also think you should eat all of these things kind of in season and preferably grow them yourself, or at least know where you're getting them, or get organic as much as you can to try to avoid the pesticide load. Because the problem with a lot of plants, if they're low lectin, if they're not a nightshade, and if they're low oxalate, is it then comes in as the pesticides. And then it comes into, you know, what the quality of the soil in which they were grown is. But if you're just doing it for some flavor, not a big deal. You would no longer be eating a technical carnivore diet. You could be doing meat and fruit, you could be doing keto, you could be doing ketovore, low carb, whatever. As long as it's whole, real food and you're feeling good, I really don't think it's that big of a deal. Now, there are some people that come to carnivore that will never be able to eat plants again because they have a severe autoimmune condition or something is going on. But I don't think that's most people. So those are my thoughts on avocados, melons, and berries. All right, this next question is about just starting the carnivore diet, wondering if there is a starter diet plan to reduce the symptoms that you might experience. So I'm assuming that you're talking about keto flu. And yeah, I do. Actually, in my new book, Complete Carnivore, I have a 4-week gradual carb reduction plan that will help you if you're eating a lot of carbs right now, kind of get that down. This book is now available for pre-order. I will put those links in the description, but that's not going to help you in the meantime because that book doesn't come out till November 4th. So basically what you're going to do is just reduce your carbs slowly. I would start by eliminating anything with added sugar or gluten in it. So no breads, no desserts, no cereals, no pastas, anything like that. Get that all out of your diet first. Try to eliminate anything with like sugary drinks. And then I would start to add in a lot more meat and a lot more fruits and vegetables. Try to get to where you're eating a whole real food diet and do this over the course of a few weeks. And then start reducing your carbohydrate intake from plants, the vegetables and fruits as well. I would say if you're eating over 200 grams of carbs per day, try to cut that down to 150, and then the next week cut it down to 100. If you start to have any kind of keto flu symptoms, kind of back it off, have maybe another 25 grams of carbs and see if you feel a little better. And I would also say make sure that you have electrolytes on hand. Keto flu is real, and electrolytes can help to mitigate the worst of the keto flu symptoms. When you are starting a new way of eating, any way of eating, if you're doing, going to a carnivore diet from a standard American, if you're going vegan from a standard American, if you're doing the sugar diet from a carnivore diet, whatever it is, anytime you're doing an extreme diet change, you're gonna have electrolyte imbalances. So it's really important to do electrolytes. This is actually a great time to thank today's sponsor, Element Electrolytes. This is the brand that I use, Element. They have 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. This is the watermelon flavor. This is the one my husband loves the most. I am loving the lemonade salt. It was a limited edition summer flavor, but now it's like part of the official lineup. So you can get it anytime, which I'm very, very happy about. I'm drinking 3 of these lemonade salts per day. They're so good. Right now, Element is offering my viewers a free sample pack with any order. So if you are trying to figure out keto flu, do yourself a favor, go to the link in the description. It's drinkelement.com/Jenny Mittich. That's DRINKLMNT.com/Jenny Mittich and get your free sample pack with any order today. You can do flavored. You can also do the raw unflavored if you don't want to have any kind of like carbs or stevia or flavorings or things like that. The raw unflavored is just the minerals. I think that's probably a good place to start on carnivore, but make sure you have some electrolytes on hand because if you don't, you're gonna suffer. And that's not good. Thank you to Element for sponsoring today's video. The next question is, can I do carnivore if I have high blood pressure? And the answer is a resounding yes. Yes, a lot of people that start carnivore see a reduction and normalization of their blood pressure within weeks of starting the diet. It is incredibly good for normalizing blood pressure levels. So if you're currently taking blood pressure medication, just make sure once you start the diet, if you're kind of noticing like, my blood pressure is pretty normal, you might not need as high of medication and you might be able to get off medication altogether. But make sure you're working with your physician on that. Just maybe let them know like, hey, I'm trying a lower carb diet and I'm interested to see if maybe I can improve my blood pressure levels. So can we just kind of monitor my medication at this time? And they should be pretty cool with it. Yeah, you can definitely do carnivore if you have high blood pressure. Next question, carnivore for the menopausal and hypothyroidism peeps, please. So I don't know that you need to do anything super different. For menopausal women, I am not there yet. I still have my monthly cycle and it's regular. So I'm just still in my fertile years, but there's differing opinions on how you should set up your macros for menopause. So some people do really, really, really well with a lot of added fat in carnivore. So doing like higher fat macros, so maybe like 80% fat to 20% protein. And then there's other people in their menopausal years that do lower fat, higher protein, maybe like 60% fat to 40% protein. So you really have to kind of figure out what works best for you. If you have a lot of extra weight on you, you're probably not going to want to do a higher fat carnivore. I would say probably do a more moderate fat carnivore like 60-40 or 65-35. Now, if you are at your goal weight or pretty close, or if you're very active, if you're, kind of lean and have a lot of muscle, then I think that you can do higher levels of fat. As you get closer to your goal weight, you're going to need to increase the fat intake because you won't have as much on your body, so that is very important. Now, for hypothyroidism, I personally, like I said, I have Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune thyroid condition. I have found in the past year and a half that I've been dealing with this, that a strict version of carnivore is the way I feel my best. I cannot add a lot of plant material. I'm just talking fruits and vegetables. I don't do gluten, I don't do dairy, I don't do anything like that. I would say if you have a low thyroid condition, doing a really strict version of carnivore, you need to get your supplement game in order. Any kind of thyroid condition, you're going to be having a hard time absorbing nutrients in your gut. So I think dialing in the gut health, but then also giving your body what it needs in supplement form. So that would be like selenium, zinc, vitamin D, a methylated B complex, some magnesium glycinate, probably a few different forms of magnesium would be good, and then iodine. Iodine is vitally important, especially for those with Hashimoto's, but it's really, really, really important that you get the purest iodine you can. There's a lot of people that will be like, oh, I had a reaction from iodine. What kind of iodine were you taking? Because a lot of it can be just the pesticides or toxins or things that are in that mix. I have been now supplementing with, I'm working my way up to 30 drops 3 times per day, but I am doing right now, I think 18 drops 3 times per day. And it's been a game changer. I am using the accelerated iodine from Accelerated Supplements, I think it's called. I'll link it in the description. Really high quality stuff. Very, very pure. The owner of this company is obsessed with purity, and everything is third-party tested, and it's really, really clean. I'm actually going to have her on the podcast soon, and we'll get some more of these questions answered. But to boil it down for thyroid, I think strict carnivore, supplementation, and working on leaky gut stuff. Which again, I'm going to have a whole protocol for that very, very soon, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. Okay, the next question is about mushroom coffee. Does everyday dose or any of the other mushroom coffees have a place in a carnivore diet? If you are having success incorporating them, I think it's totally fine. Mushrooms are a fungi, not even a plant. Technically, it's a fungi, it's its own, kingdom. I love mushrooms. I love them. I use an Ancestral Supplements protein powder that is beef protein plus some mushroom stuff, and it is not negatively affecting my carnivore diet at all. So if you're having success drinking it, go ahead. I really don't think it's that big of a deal. Next question, have been keto or animal-based for 2.5 years, but gaining weight the past few months. Not sure if it was perimenopausal. She is 44 and irregular periods, strength training, and wearing a weighted vest. So the most frustrating thing about any kind of dietary lifestyle is it needs to be shifted and adjusted often, I think. Especially if you're starting to go into the next phase of your life with perimenopause and your cycles starting to be irregular and all that kind of stuff. I would say probably make a few adjustments with your macros to start, just to see if that'll help. Maybe lower the fat a little bit and see if that kind of gets that weight loss under control. I would also recommend finding a knowledgeable functional medicine practitioner that knows about hormones and thyroid stuff, and maybe doing a full check. It's very common in today's world with all of the environmental toxins that we're surrounded with, all of the products that we use on our skins that are endocrine disruptors, drinking water, the air, all of that kind of stuff, mold in our houses. We are just bombarded with stuff all day long, and hormonal issues are so common. So common. So I think it would be worth it to go and get a check and see what's going on under the hood. Next question is another person, been on carnivore for 9 months, continuing to gain weight. What can I do to lose weight? I guess this is going to be the answer for everyone in this particular video. It is lower the fat. What are you eating? Are you eating a lot of butter? Are you eating a lot of dairy? Are you eating really fatty cuts of meat? So what I would say is eliminate the butter, eliminate the dairy, stop adding fat to everything, and just focus on the meat. And if that doesn't do the trick after a few weeks, try replacing one of those meals per day with a leaner cut of meat. Without any other information, I would say dialing in movement, trying to work on your circadian alignment, and working on stress and sleep are also super important. Just so you know, everyone out there, I do offer coaching calls where we can kind of dial in a program for you. We can build a meal plan. We can talk about circadian alignment. We can talk about supplements. I can go over blood work. I am not a medical professional, so I can't give personal medical advice, but we can build a lifestyle plan for you and talk about like certain foods that you're eating. Like this question is very vague. I don't know exactly what this Club Neff was eating. I don't know if they're eating a ton of cheese or a ton of heavy cream, if they're adding butter to everything. These are the kind of little things that we can dial in a coaching call. So that link is in the description as well if you would like to take advantage of it. The final Instagram question here is not really a question, but I wanted to end on it because it is inspirational. It takes some time for our physiology to change. Don't give up hope. And I totally 100% agree with that. It took us decades to get to where we are today. And it's not, your health isn't just going to magically change overnight. There are a few unicorns out there that go carnivore and within 3 weeks they've lost a ton of weight, everything has improved, and they're just sing it from the rooftops. And I wish I had had that experience too, but I have not. I am still dealing with the Hashimoto's and that has been a big thing for me, but I have been improving, and carnivore is the best dietary philosophy that I've found that has allowed me to live an overall healthy life. I'm operating at a much higher optimal baseline, and you can too. It just takes some time. And if you're struggling, there are tweaks that you can make. So I would say a lot of the questions in today's video were about weight loss stalls. So why don't you check out this video next? This is my ultimate guide to weight loss stalls on carnivore. I dive into so many topics in this video. You're definitely going to come away with at least 3 or 4 things that you can tweak to get that scale moving again. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss part 2 of viewer questions that'll be coming in the next few days. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.